Kanye West is a freaking idiot. Dude said that slavery was a freaking choice. Let that marinate for a second. Dude been smoking them egomaniac psychostimulants so freaking long it done elevated his mind to a point to where like the vertebrae and the backbone and the spinal cord, you know, all that mess done snapped. He ain't connected to anything anymore. This dude ain't in no regular sunken place. You remember what Leonardo DiCaprio talked about in Django about the slaves and the makeup of their skulls, how they have deep dimples inside of the area of submissiveness and humility, whereas white people have the dimples in the area of creativity and genius. Yeah, Kanye West got a freaking sunken place right there in the middle of his skull. Boy, you just stupid is what stupid does. And by stupid does, you do what stupid does. Man, it's a direct spit in the face to look into the camera at all those millions of young black kids that follow you, Kanye West, and say that slavery was a choice. What you need to do is go to a library, get some old history books, and read about slavery for yourself before getting your dumb, cuckoo, deep dimple brain up on stage in front of thousands, if not millions of people and spreading that false narrative. So you're telling me those slave women chose to be raped? You're telling me that those women slaves who had husbands, those husbands sat there and chose to let their wife get raped? Do you seriously think that on all them buck-breaking farms in Haiti that those male slaves were choosing to be raped by those slave masters? You think that all them young 5-year-old young black female slaves were choosing to be molested by their slave masters? You think that after all the torturing and the raping and the being humiliated and beaten and whipped and strapped up between two horses so that when they slap the backs of both horses that the horses will tear the slave in half, and all the chasing down in the middle of the night, and all the misinformation and miseducation, and all the false religion spreading, and all the horrible atrocities that were committed by the white man against the slaves, that we chose that set of circumstances? Black African slaves chose to have their families separated, Black folks chose to be loaded into the bottom of a ship like freaking sardines and in some terrible cheap cargo where they pissing and crapping on themselves, all stacked up on top of each other, smelling each other's body odor and filth. That they chose that? You think we actually settled for that situation? You think we chose to be treated like cattle and herded around like we was in some type of pet nigga zoo, where they got our women standing there all undressed, all indecent, just ashamed of themselves, and where they feeding our babies all this nasty corn slop with mud and spit and crap in it, and just cracking jokes about how you just
feed the nigger anything and they'll eat it with joy.
They'll eat like, that's a good slave. Kanye Stress. Shoot, my bad. Kanye West. Dude, somebody needs to take a bucket of cold ice water and douse your face in it, and then take a wet rag and just slap you and beat you with that rag in the face until you wake up. Right now, you in this La La Land, sick, fantasy, twisted reality where everything is just so literally honky-dory, and you seem to have forgotten what race of people you come from. I seriously wonder how you sleep at night knowing that you sold your entire race of people out. You's a stupid nigga. For the record, black slaves didn't choose slavery. They didn't choose it at all. You wanna know what actually happened? White slave catchers went over there to Africa, and yeah, they may have gotten a few tribes over there to sell over their own people. You wanna know how they did it? They went over there with their guns. See, this is a weapon that the African had never seen before. So they're like, what is this thing that they point at people and then they explode? And then they aimed it. They probably aimed that gun at a slave, blew his brains out, scared the living crap out of everybody that watched that, and they turned around and pointed it at everybody in the surrounding area and said, get on a slave ship, or else. The slaves, those Africans, they saw those guns, and they said they probably thought it was some type of weird voodoo demonic magic that they didn't have no control over. And so, of course, you see a gun, boom, brains all over the ground. I mean, if you don't know what that thing is, you're going to get on that ship so that you don't meet the same fate. That's how slaves ended up becoming a thing in America, as well as the rest of the world. That was a 101 on the history of how slavery got started, Kanye West. Go do some research.